So I'm Jamie Zaplatosh. I'm the Director of Green Schoolyards for Healthy Communities with the Children in Nature Network. And I'm really excited to be joined by Teresa Weatherall-Neal from Grand Rapids Public Schools and Gilbert Hicks from Austin Independent School District. And I'm really excited about what both of these districts are doing in terms of policy and commitment to programs that are beneficial for their students and their communities, and hoping that you'll be excited about them too by the end of the presentation. So the things that Grand Rapids and Austin have in common, besides the fact that they're both starting Green Schoolyards programs, is that they're both part of the Children in Nature Network and the National League of Cities partnership called Cities Connecting Children to Nature, where we are really trying to push the envelope that if city decision makers and district administrators are committing to connecting kids to nature, that it's going to escalate and really scale much more quickly than the nonprofits doing that outside of the system on their own. But how do you implement policies and get municipal buy-in to make that happen? So both Austin and Grand Rapids are part of this network of cities across the U.S. that are getting technical assistance, pass-through grants, and peer learning opportunities to support connecting kids to nature, and with a specific focus on equitable access to nature. So without any further ado, I'm going to invite you to hear from Teresa.
My name is Teresa Weatherall-Neal, M.I.N., and I am the superintendent of the Grand Rapids Public Schools. And Grand Rapids is a medium-sized district. We have about 17,000 students, about 3,000 employees. We have 52 schools. What's really unique about Grand Rapids, in that picture that Jamie had up, you also have there the Director of Parks for the City of Grand Rapids, and you have our Executive Director, Lynn Heemstra, who is a city employee, but is committed to the Grand Rapids Public Schools. So I think that part of that is the uniqueness that you'll find in Grand Rapids is coming together. In our school system, we serve about 38% Hispanic students, about 33% African American. We have 20% Caucasian, and then we have Asian and Native American. So we have a very wonderful mix of children in our community. Our city is about 200,000 people, a nice-sized city. I was born and raised in Grand Rapids, a product of the Grand Rapids Public Schools. What is unique about Grand Rapids is we've had a 70-year history with our city, and I think it made it a natural fit when we talk about parks and playgrounds and outdoor learning. It was sort of scary for me as a superintendent. I've been in the district a long time, but not one for, we really didn't look at the outdoors and how could we do this in a school system. But it was through our partnership with our mayor and with our Lynn Heemstra, our Office of Children and Families, youths in our community that came together and said, why not? Why can't we do this? Being the superintendent of the city at that time of the school district, I thought, well, let me try to learn a little bit about this program. Went into the communities here and just talked about our history of how long that we've been engaging, in our communities with our partnership. You can see it wasn't just this current mayor that we have now, and it wasn't under me. It was our previous mayor, George Hartwell, that really started this, coming together to create this partnership with Grand Rapids Public Schools. We have what's called a joint use agreement, first rights of refusal, and so we're in such a partnership with our city. We own the school, the city owns the land, and we were able to come together. I say that like it's pretty simple. You guys, it was not simple. It is hard. It's hard work, right? But we all stayed focused on children. We all stayed focused on what was the good of the whole. And so we pushed, we pulled, but in the end, we were able to commit around children in green space. I do like that, and for any superintendents, this is a part of the learning to be vulnerable, is to be in the community, learn with your community. You don't have to do it alone. We went to our city, our members in our community, and asked them for a millage for our parks. That was a hard part. One, again, because we own the school, the parks, the city owns the land. And so there were 100 reasons not to do it. It was all around adults, you guys. It was all around adults. It had nothing to do with what was best for children. But again, we stayed in it. We took the ownership out. And I think that is how we got to this point. It was not just the history, but people to say, how do we get to a yes? So once we passed our millage, we also went to our community partners and said, how can we do this? We received our grant through this project. We went to the Weggy Foundation. They helped us. Our Parks Department gave us $500,000. I mean, so we braided funding to get to this point. So the 730 you saw at the bottom from our Weggy Foundation. It's a local foundation. And this was a hard part because we had to come together to say, how do we create those goals? And in order to do that, I had to remove myself as a superintendent, right? The mayor had to remove herself. Jamie was there to witness our push and pull because you have to have an outsider to do this. But again, it was all around how do we get to yes. We knew that it was going to be the right thing to do for kids. We wanted children to stay in school. We had to reduce our suspensions. We had to do all of these important things in order for our kids to get there. And we kept pushing and we came up with our goals. This is a really nice thing because Grand Rapids, like I said, we have 52 schools, and we had to decide which community. Well, you can't just pick a community. You have to go to the community and engage the community. One of the things Jamie talked about is the importance of voice, of giving people in the community voice. That's parents, staff, children, right? Business leaders, and we did. We chose our Burton Middle School, which is about 99% Hispanic. It's an elementary and a middle school, so two different schools. But we chose that area with the city, and Plaster Creek is a park, but they have the rainwater, so it's a nice area to do that in. But other communities said, why not me? If you're going to invest over $1 million, why not my community? And so we want to continue to grow this, but we chose Burton, and it is a wonderful partnership. The parents, the students, the staff members, everyone got involved. It's a relatively new school. We renovated the school in 2004, and so we created green space. We just didn't know what to do with it. We knew that it was important, didn't know what to do with it. And for me as the superintendent, it has been a learning for me. And I've jumped all in, and I know now what I don't know, but I am willing to continue to learn. This entire community project was really about getting people involved, teaching them how best to do this. There is no right or wrong way. There is no right or wrong way. I think it's removing oneself to ask young people and to ask the parents, what do you really want? And not only asking them, because sometimes we just don't know. As your superintendent, I just didn't know, right? But it's teaching what are the possibilities. This is absolutely amazing. It is a beautiful, beautiful project that we have going in Grand Rapids. And we really want to continue this throughout our entire city because we believe that all of our children deserve the exact same thing. And this is how you break funding. This is where, I think as superintendents, this is where we want to be very territorial and say, this is my budget, right? And let the philanthropic community fund this, or let a grant come in. We can't do that. We have to take all of the dollars in order to create this project, but do what you can in your area. So it isn't just something that we're doing in the community. You can change policy. You can hire people to help with the fidelity of the program. You can buy curriculum. You can buy curriculum. Professional development, right? We have our parent engagement, our parent university, so we actually teach parents. I think it's doing what you can, whatever your area of expertise is, but bringing the dollars to the table, the resources to the table, the way we did in Grand Rapids, which was with our parks and millage and our philanthropic community and the school system, everyone coming together for the good of the whole. Again, this is hard work. This is hard work. And I think that you have to be able to say, no matter what, we're going to get this done for children. Children are in school a very small percentage of the day. They are in the community. And for many communities, especially communities that most of our children are from, they're just not used to it. They don't know. My learning came actually through a sad issue that happened in Detroit when I heard that children were getting water out of the river. And I thought, you know, what would my kids do? I don't know that they would have the answer. And so it was more than learning about the parks and green schools and what that does for children. But it was me as a superintendent not knowing and started me on this quest to say, how do we get this integrated in the system and the city of Grand Rapids, and finding partners to do that with. But it's being vulnerable. It's being vulnerable to say as a superintendent or as a leader, I don't have the answers. There are people out there that will help me get to yes for kids. So probably went over my 10 minutes, but exciting project.
Thank you.
Well, I'm Gilbert Hicks from Austin ISD in Texas. A little bit warmer there than it is here, actually. Surprising. Austin is a district of about 80. I feel like you can't hear me.
It is. Something is up.
Okay, you're fine. 80,000 students with 130 school sites, and we are about 58% Hispanic, 28% white, 8% African American, 52% free and reduced lunch, which is decreasing, and over time due to lots of reasons. We are very excited about being part of this collaborative with connecting children to nature. And I don't want to repeat a lot of things that have already been said, so I'm going to kind of drop a few of the slides, Jamie, if you don't mind, and I'm going to kind of get to exactly what Austin is doing. It's connected to everything that Teresa and Jamie have talked about already. We have a Green School Parks initiative that is creating about 24 outdoor learning spaces, outdoor classrooms within Austin, and we see the benefits of that clearly. We passed a $1.05 billion bond last year, and there's 17 modernized campuses in the first phase that we're working on right now. And each one of those schools, or the majority of, I shouldn't say each one, but the majority of them are focused on outdoor learning as one of the components, because we've added that aspect into our educational specifications for the district, beginning with the policy issues. The second thing that we've done recently is we've changed our recess policy in AISD to add 30 minutes of free time that's focused on those outdoor learning spaces that we're creating at classrooms. 30 minutes in addition to our structured time that we have already, what we call WOW in Austin, Working Out for Wellness, which is actually a state law that we have to provide that each single day. So in the end, there's a good chance that kids are outside for 50 minutes a day, and we need to make sure that that's quality time, and the outdoor learning spaces are really helping us to connect to quality spaces outside. And like Jamie said and Teresa said, it's more than just a garden that's outside. Our schools have edible gardens. We have the natural tree stumps and things like that that are utilized for designing play areas. We have the canopies. We have nature trails, and just lots of different aspects of the green schoolyard that are really coming together. Additionally, in Austin, we have signed an Austin Children's Bill of Rights. I have a freebie here for everyone. I have a magnet for you, so don't leave before you get that. With our Austin Children's Bill of Rights, and essentially, all children have the right to climb a tree, catch a fish, picnic in a park, hike a trail, ride a bike, splash in a river. You get the idea that all children should have access. It's an equity issue. That's where our recess policy came from as well, and that's where actually the outdoor classroom pieces come together. Really, is through an equity issue. All children should have access to this, not just children whose living situation allows them to have better access to it, and naturally we should try to provide this opportunity and have a high expectation that all children have that access. So one of the schools, Barrington Elementary School, is redesigning their spaces. It's an older school, but they're redesigning their spaces to accommodate green school park designs. And there are lots of pictures here that show kind of what they're doing. We can just flip through those. There are about 10 slides. And the key is having those spaces. That's our superintendent, Dr. Cruz, there, that's out there. Actually, I'm not sure what he's doing there, but he's signing something. It's probably the Children's Bill of Rights. That's really been a big deal. The ribbon cutting is what he was attending there. The community gets together with Jamie's group and people from Jamie's group, and they have meetings to make these designs. It's a community partnership to decide how they're going to use the space, how they're going to design the space, how they're going to activate the space. It's really important to have the community totally involved. So one of the things that they're doing, I think that's really neat, is at Barrington Elementary School, they have created a Saturdays in the Park program where every Saturday is something different happening. It's starting this spring, but one weekend, for example, they'll have City of Austin Park Rangers there, and they'll have Nature Play with loose parts, and the YMCA is going to have a weekend, and Side by Side with Kids for games, crafts, and dance. Master Gardeners program, all of that, a different program every Saturday in the park. And then additionally in Austin, we have a resolution with the city to really utilize we signed a resolution recently with the city to utilize our spaces, the school spaces that might possibly be repurposed due to declining enrollment, in a way that's profitable for both the city and the district and beneficial to the community. And that can look a lot of different ways, but the outdoor spaces cannot simply be allowed to go to waste. We'll utilize those and the buildings for the best use of the community. So that partnership is going to be very, very strong, and it's very beneficial for us. This is Discovery Hill, which is an outdoor learning classroom at one of our school sites that's utilized by the entire district, and the community is able to utilize it as well. It's heavily science focused, but all sorts of lessons occur outside. Literacy is a big initiative in our district as well, and they had over 3,500 visitors last year to Discovery Hill. And the connections that are happening are being put into the curriculum. Again, I said educational specifications have been updated, but also we have a person that's dedicated in the district, an outdoor learning specialist, a position that helps to ensure that our new modernized buildings are focusing on the outdoor learning spaces and incorporating those into schools, but also incorporating lessons into our curriculum so that it's seamless and it doesn't look like an add-on. It's something that really, really benefits all kids and even the adults. It's part of our adult wellness program too, the outdoor classrooms. I've talked about the bonds already, and so I've gotten off script a little bit. And so lots of benefits. And we'll keep going until we get to something that I haven't talked about. Just beautiful pictures. We're really looking forward to it. Our first school opens in January of 2020, so less than a year from now. And that will be T.A. Brown Elementary School, which STEAM will be a focus, but really it's the outdoor learning that they're really excited about. They're working with EcoRise. Is that a national organization, if I'm not mistaken, that they're working with to really ensure that it's a very ecologically friendly school, and outdoor learning is a key component. We are very supportive of the initiatives. We are looking at doing lots of things at different schools, as you can see. And we have a committee that actually reviews applications that schools make to improve their schoolyards. They meet twice a month to look at those applications, and we have dollars committed to improving schoolyards. And we have committees through our different initiatives, and that's many of our school board members, but the Environmental Stewardship Advisory Committee has a large part in saying what's going to happen with regards to improvement of the schoolyards. And then I mentioned the resolution earlier. The city manager is working directly with us as a district to ensure that our AASA properties are utilized in the best interest of both the city and the school district, with the green schoolyards as a focus.
Thank you both. So I'll ask you both a couple of questions, and then We'll open it up for others. So I think just as a clarification, why did Grand Rapids Public Schools start investing in green schoolyards?
In Grand Rapids, as with many of our cities, space is at a premium. School districts own space, and I think that's one. It's one where children are, where they should be, but it's also in neighborhoods. And this partnership with the city of Grand Rapids isn't just about who owns the space. The space is owned by these children and their families and neighborhoods. And so we had to come together to say what's sort of happening already and how do we come together. So whether that was around the millage in order for us to update our parks, a commitment for us to have parks, right? It was where does this happen naturally? And it really, we didn't want an add-on. We had to have adults get out of the way to say this is going to happen for children, right? And it's scary to do that. I think that it's really important for people to know, though, you don't have to start large. Because when you look at Grand Rapids or you look at Austin, it can be overwhelming. You guys, it can start in one small neighborhood with someone that is passionate and believe in the children and the space and what should happen. And so I don't want people to get scared off by what we've done, right? This organization, Jamie, it will help. We can just start somewhere really small, but we have to start.
Thank you. Gilbert, what would you say for Austin, why you've committed to installing green schoolyards?
You know, we have 3 pillars that we're looking at this year. We have equity, relationships, and a focus on the instructional core. As you know, we can put everything that we talk about in Austin right now into those 3 buckets. So our commitment to outdoor school yards and outdoor learning really fits into each one of those buckets. With the equity piece, again, I mentioned that earlier, is that all children should have access to the wonderful benefits of outdoor learning, the academic improvement, the mental health positive outcomes that can happen with that, the relationships that can be built. Every child should have access to that. And then, of course, the relationships, as I said before, is another one of our big buckets that it helps to bring kids together. And then the focus on the instructional core, you mentioned that earlier, Jamie, of course, is that, you know, for every minute that's spent outside, that increases the amount of focus and attention that's in a positive way in the classroom. So we saw the benefits in those 3 areas, and that's why we moved that way.
You've also covered my second question. So, no, that's perfect. So, Teresa, I'm going to ask you, how do green schoolyards help you meet your district goals and priorities?
Again, it's just, it's all the same. We know that suspensions, academic achievement, everything improves when, in fact, children have time outside. But one of the things we had to do in Grand Rapids in order to make that change is we had to compensate staff. We said more time outside, but we took the resources away, right? And so it has to be an initiative that comes straight from the top. We have been able to reduce our suspensions, increase our attendance, increase our academic achievement. It isn't more time should be spent in the classrooms. About 80% of our children in the Grand Rapids Public Schools live at or below the poverty line. We tend to think, stay inside because you need to read more, or you need to do extra math, or you need to. The research is real clear, you guys, we've gotten this wrong. We need to switch that, allow children to go outside, and especially boys of color. You know what? We want to put them on medication. We want to say you're too rough. We want to say you should sit down. We want to say all of these negative things, right? If we look at green space, time outside as an intervention and say it's okay, how about we prepare you to play outside? In Grand Rapids, we are deep in snow right now. But how about we dress them so that they can go outside and play and get sunlight? It really is just the right thing to do. And you can see all of the marks in Grand Rapids going in the right direction. But one, we had to get our own selves together to say we want kids to be outside.
Thank you. So for both of you, what are your ultimate goals for green schoolyards in your district? They're both in their pilot phases right now. You're testing out what partnership looks like, what design and installation and use looks like. But for the long-term vision, what would you like to see in Austin and Grand Rapids long-term?
You know, there are four overarching goals that we've determined, and I'm not going to try to make them up. I'm going to read them to you because they are really precise. We want to increase time spent in nature for kids. We want to embed nature into the district culture. We want to support access to nature and outdoor learning environments on our AISD campuses. And the sustainable land management and implementation is really important for us too. But the major thing is to have nature not be a scary thing, for it to be part of everything that we do and for us to see the benefits of it. Ultimately, if we can do that, we think we've won.
I'm going to start at the bottom, which is an appreciation. Again, this is something new. So just an appreciation of green schools and what outdoors will do for you as a person. I think that's one. But I would like to see Grand Rapids. We have 52 schools. Each individual school, I would love to see them become a partner of the Green School. But more importantly, each individual school as a neighborhood. So regardless of where you are in the city, let that neighborhood, let those people in the neighborhoods decide what their green school should look like. I think that's one, individuality. So this is a huge issue. And for pre-K through adulthood, right? Or from 0 to adulthood. It shouldn't be only young kids get to go out for recess. We can't think about that. If we know that it's good, we know it's good for middle school. So how do we do more outdoor learning? I think for a district superintendent and board members, I would say develop that curriculum. Develop the curriculum, put money behind it, right? Create policies. That's how you get to have sustainable change. And then I think the final thing, as a parent, as a community member, I would say that space without boundaries, right? So why can't I go? I may live in a different city, but why can't I go? And then how do we make this happen across communities for all children so it isn't winners and losers in this game?
And lastly, you've both touched on it, but how do you engage the students and community members and parents in the design of your green schoolyards? Again, you're both in your pilot phases, and the system's not completely set in stone yet, but what have you been doing thus far?
A number of grants have been received in Austin around green schoolyards. We have the city partnerships, we have the resolution, we have the Children Bill of Rights, and there are community members, teachers, parents, and kids involved in each one of those phases. But the one that I'd really like to focus on is with the passage of our bond, the $1.05 billion bond that we passed last year. We have campus architectural teams at the first 17 modernized schools. And this is our first time ever that we've had community members and parents and teachers involved in the design of each one of those modernized schools. And as the fact that green space is part of our educational specifications right now, it's an expectation that that be a part of each one of the schools that's being designed. So everyone is coming together to try, not to figure out if we should do it or not, but how we will do it at each one of those modernized schools.
And I think you just start by going to the neighborhood, right? Go to the neighbors, the pastors, the store owners, the parents, the teachers. It doesn't matter. You start small, you go to people in the community, and I think that's where you find the answer. The business owners. When you create green space, and whether it's a green schoolyard or green space in parks, cities will win. Your cities will win. And so the business owners, they have an interest. And so how do you get people together to come to say, this is what we want to do? We were fortunate in Grand Rapids that we had our mayor, our superintendent, and other people at the table to say we want to make this happen. We had our business community. But I think you go to the people in that neighborhood and say, what do you want? But you can't go with the answers, which is what we tend to do in school districts, right? We go in neighborhoods and say, this is what you should have. And I'm saying we need to flip that and say, what do you want and how can I partner with you? Right? So not going in with this preconceived notion of this is what we should all have. right? Let people tell you what they want and look at what they value and their culture and then build it from there.
And one of the things that I find especially striking with Grand Rapids is your commitment to engage in the community around the schoolyards as a way to heal the divide that's historically been there, and re-engaging the community in those spaces as owners. Yeah.
And it isn't just Grand Rapids. There are people in many communities that have been victims. And so it hasn't always been a great place for people. And I think that you start one by valuing who they are, what they bring to the table. It's such a rich environment when you listen to other people. And we've done that very well and continue to do that in Grand Rapids by embracing awe. And you get this vibrant, beautiful city. We have been ranked in Grand Rapids for many things being the best, right? One is we're a community, but it can happen not only in Grand Rapids, it can happen anywhere, not just in Austin. You guys, it can happen across this country. The answer is in the community with people.
Anything else that either one of you want to say as a short soundbite or your parting words?
You know, I think my parting words is not to be afraid to be vulnerable. Because in the beginning, I think that's one of the things that would have held me back as a superintendent is to say, I don't know how to do this. But I have found people to be so very helpful, the nonprofits in the city, and you don't have to have the answers. And I think that's probably been most helpful for me is to say, can you help me? I don't know how to make this happen for kids.
And I'm going to echo Teresa, start small.
Sorry.
Thank you for joining us this morning.